Sorry, I'm starting the recording. So this webinar is part of the Bend Not Break webinar series, and it's co-organized by CCRP and the Food, Water and Security team. And for those who don't know me, I'm Aurélie. I'm part of the CCRP team, the Climate Change and Resilience Platform. You might not have attended the first two webinars of this series. So the first one was covering the Corée la Vie project in Haiti, and the second one, the Red Sac project in Niger. And we'll discuss during this third one, the Weather Rainfall project. And so for those who don't know this series of webinars, it's a quarterly series, and the idea was to offer a knowledge sharing platform for country offices to share what they've been doing in their projects. So it's not CCRP presenting, so I'm just like opening this webinar. And the aim is really to discuss the lesson learned during the project and a few recommendations that can be shared to other offices and staff. So it's really practical case studies, and I hope it will be useful for your project as well. So maybe as we are now discussing the Agenda 2030 in the Global Confederation, it's important to say that CCRP is leading on the resilience approach that is part of the three approach that we have in CARE with gender equality and governance, inclusive governance. And so we really would like to emphasize that for us, it's very important that it stays at a cross-cutting theme to help enhance our sustainability in our project and forward-looking thinking on how to withstand shock stresses. And we hope this series is helpful in doing that, and that you can also, all of you, push for that so that it stays in our agenda for the coming years, as we know that shocks and stresses are becoming more and more frequent and intense. So without further delay, let's start with weather rainfall. Let me check. Yeah. So today, the weather rainfall, like part of the weather rainfall team, will present some highlights from their final evaluation and also their best practices for the involvement of community members and especially women in the adaptation planning process. So it's really resilience to climate change related shocks and stresses. And so Marie-Leroy will open the presentation. She's a project manager and climate change advisor for CARE France. And then we will have Sarintip Promreed from Raksai, CARE in Thailand. She's an environmental program coordinator for the northern region, and she's in charge of weather rainfall there. And we will also have Pradeep Kumar Mohapatra from CARE India, who is weather rainfall project coordinator. Sorry, and a little bit of housekeeping. You might not be familiar, but you can mute on the left corner. You can mute yourself, and also in the right corner, bottom right corner, you have small button that you can use to say if you agree on something, disagree, if you want people to move like a bit more slowly or more quickly on things. And then in the three dots, you can also have like sum up, sum down. So do not hesitate to use that if you want to comment on anything while people are talking. And so I will stop sharing my screen and then hand over to Marie, who will give the first presentation. Thanks, Marie, and thanks all for joining.
Thank you, Aurélie. Hello, everyone. So I'll be sharing my screen right now. Let me see. Okay.
It's working, but not full screen yet.
Is it full screen now? No.
No.
Why? Still not?
No, we can see.
Okay. Let's do like
your folders. Yeah.
Now?
Yes. Yeah, it's good. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. So I'm Marie Leroy. I'm project manager and climate advisor at Care France. I'll be giving you an introduction about the Where the Rain Falls program for those who don't know it, and also giving you some highlights from our final evaluation that was just finalized. So Where the Rain Falls is a project that has been going on for almost 9 years now in several countries. So we've had a chance to kind of pilot test a lot of interventions related to community-based adaptation to climate change in different countries. And there are a lot of very interesting results and lessons that we're very happy to share with you all today. Feel free to put any question or comment in the chat box, and we'll take them after the presentation. So Where the Rain Falls project started in 2011 with a research project that was conducted in 8 countries over 3 continents, so Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And I was looking at the interlinkages between changing rainfall patterns, food security, and human mobility. And out of that came a global policy report highlighting some of the key findings. And these findings included the fact that rural people in all of the research sites perceived climate change happening mostly in the form of rainfall variability. And that still had an impact, very important impact on their household risk management decisions and what type of livelihood activities they would undertake. And another thing that came up in this report, which is not so surprising, is that the rainfall variability had a lot of impact on agricultural productivity and contributed to food insecurity. So the graph that you have at the bottom of this slide, the picture that you have, is showing how climate change impact has a lot of dimensions that are all interrelated. And with this project in several countries over several years, we've been trying to address most of these both drivers and impact, looking at agricultural productivity, the impacts that it can have on poverty, and how we can support communities develop alternative livelihoods and increase their incomes, the questions of forced displacement and forced migrations, trying to address also the risk related to natural disasters, food insecurity, which is related to agricultural productivity, and also water scarcity. Since 2014, we've been developing pilot projects in several countries around community-based adaptation to try to address these risks and these impacts. The countries of implementation included Bangladesh, India, Thailand, and Peru. And today we're going to focus our discussion on India and Thailand, which are the 2 countries where the project is still ongoing or is being finalized right now. This is just an overview of what Where the Rain Falls Phase 3 looks like. So it's the current phase, or the most recent phase of the project from 2017 to 2019, which we are wrapping up. The project is being implemented in Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra states of India and in Chiang Mai province of Thailand in various villages or communities. And you can see on the map where these states are located. The general objective for both countries is to enhance the resilience of marginalized populations to climate risk and climate change and build their adaptive capacities. So what is important to have in mind here is that we've been trying to address as much as possible women and vulnerable groups, which in most cases were ethnic community people, which are usually left out of government programs and have little access to information and sometimes to education. The specific objectives were twofold. One was to support the people and communities toward more climate resilient livelihoods and forward-looking development planning. And the other aspect was to contribute to the integration of this climate risk and climate change consideration into policies and practices of local authorities and local civil society organizations. So the idea with this 3rd phase of the program was to capitalize on the learnings of the previous phases, strengthen the climate resilience activities, and also make sure that the project can be sustainable by influencing local stakeholders. And overall, we've been targeting over 6,000 beneficiaries, most of them being women, smallholder farmers. These are some examples in pictures of the activities that have been implemented in Thailand and India, and my colleagues will tell you a little bit more about these. You can see here on the top left corner an activity around seed conservation in India. At the bottom, an activity around small business development. There have been a lot of small businesses developed often by women groups and women saving groups. This one is that you see on the picture is on poultry. There has been a lot of activity on participatory land management using GPS technology in Thailand, and I think Tip will tell you a little bit more about that. Activities around water management and water saving, and here you can see on the top right corner a watershed restoration activity. In India, in particular, a lot of work has been done on access to climate information with the establishment of mini weather stations at the local level, managed by communities themselves. And at the top right corner, finally, at the bottom right corner, sorry, you can see a session of community adaptation action plan development in India. So these are just some examples to give you an idea of what the project looked like on the ground. In terms of achievements, so I'll be sharing some of the conclusion and results from the final evaluation that we just completed. There have been some very positive and interesting results in terms of agricultural productivity and incomes. For 60% of the farmers that we surveyed, agricultural productivity has increased during the course of the project. What is interesting to see is agricultural income has increased by 33%, but household income has increased by 400%, so 4 times. And the reason for that is the uptake of small businesses, thanks partly at least to the support provided by the project in terms of capital investment and also in terms of linking up entrepreneurs and especially women groups with existing government schemes so they can they have the capacity to take a risk to launch their own businesses. And there have been a lot of different initiatives around rice milling, goateries, shopkeeping, and others. Another very interesting result in India is around women voice and gender equality, and Pradeep will be talking a little bit more about that and how it was achieved. But basically, previously, before the project, women did not really meet, they did not participate in decision-making processes, or in some cases, they didn't even leave the house. And we have witnessed progress in these 3 areas, with 77% women reporting an increase in their involvement in community-level decision-making, 84% women reporting an increase in confidence to raise their concern in public spaces. So I think these numbers are really outstanding, and it's really a great result of the intervention in India. In terms of access to climate information and knowledge, there seems to have been an increase also for 80% of the respondents in terms of access to climate and weather information, partly due to the local weather station that have been established, as I've mentioned, and thanks to the dissemination processes that have been put in place through SMS, through WhatsApp groups, and different channels. In terms of areas of improvement, what the final evaluation has shown is that the results in terms of water availability itself can be are not so straightforward, I would say. It seems that in a context of very massively changing climate, especially in Maharashtra state, probably having very direct and massive positive results in terms of water availability would require a little bit more time and investment, and possibly working also on infrastructure. Beyond that, there was also a comment about the use of community planning tools like the community action plan and the participatory scenario planning that could possibly be optimized to integrate a little bit more complexity and for communities to really adopt and endorse these tools. Moving on to Thailand, in terms of results and achievements, we have witnessed that the pilot farmer model that has been adopted in Thailand has significantly contributed to improved productivity and reduce climate vulnerability in the area. 12 pilot farmers had been supported through the project to improve their farm design and try new techniques, and this has really shown good results. An interesting impact in Thailand is that the local communities were able to raise in total over 45,000 euros from public institutions for water conservation projects. So the team and the project helped them to develop small proposal for small-scale water conservation activities, and they were able to secure this funding from public institutions. So that shows that hopefully in the future they will be able to still seek this kind of support, and it will make the result of the project more sustainable. Another interesting aspect of the project in Thailand is the innovative land use management using GPS technology, as I mentioned earlier, and that led to farmers being able to conduct land demarcation and then acquire new or updated land certificates from the district office, which they did not have before. So this has been contributing greatly to land security at the local level. In terms of areas of improvement, the pilot farmer dissemination and replication model could probably be improved or at least systematized, because we've seen that the results have been great for the pilot farmers themselves, but in terms of replication, probably with having a more formal and systematic dissemination model, we could even increase the result and the impact. There has been a challenge also in facilitating the access to markets for high value agricultural products. So some farmers have been trying to transform their products to get more added value on the agricultural products, but it's been difficult for them to access the market for these higher end, more expensive products. And the market is often in cities. And because of the remoteness of the location and transportation issues, this has remained a challenge. So maybe something to address in a future program. And just a small note on one of the challenges related to the busyness of the communities that have to work many hours in the ground, in the field, and they're not always available for community planning. So I'll be linking to that in my next slide about the main recommendation for the project. The first recommendation is to really target local planning departments and local organization around the community-based adaptation practices, and this is something that we've tried to do in the project, and is really a success factor to make sure that the local structures, local governments really own the process and can then replicate it themselves after the project is over. The second recommendation, and this is linking to the comment about communities not always having the time to allocate to the activities. It's important that the CA project target quick win activities that can bring immediate financial gains to the communities, so they have an incentive to take part in the program in the longer run, because usually community-based adaptation programs may take several years, and it's sometimes difficult for communities to stay motivated or engaged. So trying to find a balance between long-term development and long-term views and quick wins is really necessary. Another point about the time to really think through what resilience means in terms of the project. So this is more in terms of project management, monitoring, and evaluation, because resilience and adaptation can mean a lot of different things depending on the context. So it's important to take time to define from the start what it means and how we're going to assess that. And finally, a comment about importance of looking at the drivers of risk, identify them upfront and trying to address them and address the broader enabling environment of the project. So I'm not going to take more time because my colleagues are going to take the floor now. So if you have any question, you can put them in the chat box and we can talk, I think, toward the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Mari. So we'll hand over directly to Tip. So indeed, if you have clarification question, you can put them in the chat box. And as Tip and Pradeep will present more details on India and Thailand, we'll keep the question for just after their presentation. So there will be a round of questions after Tip's presentation and another one after Pradeep. So please, Tip, go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Celine Tip from RAX Thai Foundation. I'm going to present on Weather Rainfall project in Thailand and will focus on the practical aspect. The overall content will be the context and situation in upland Thailand. What we have done, key success and factor of success and challenge and adjustment. The project location was in the north region of Thailand. Phase 1 and Phase 2 were in 3 districts in Chiang Mai, which were Mae Cham, Omkoi, and Kalaya districts, and 2 districts in Nan province, which were Pua and Metrim. And for the Phase 3, we work in 2 districts in Chiang Mai, were Mae Cham and Kalaya. The target area were mountain area. There are 700 to 1,400 meters above sea level. The temperature is usually between 14 to 33 degrees Celsius. More than 70% of the area are forests, and these forests are part of the water source for Central Thai Basin. Therefore, it has been declared as protected area. The mountain population are ethnic minority groups such as Karen, Hmong, and Lua. A majority are Karen groups who practice rotational cultivation or Sweden cultivation. They are adapt to living with nature. They have passive personality, which make them avoid confrontation. Ethnic women aged 40 and up are illiterate in Thai. Their livelihood depends on agriculture. They grow rice for their own consumption and grow cash crop for income purpose, such as maize. They raise small livestock for consumption and cattle for income. For 5 capitals, we found that these ethnic groups have knowledge about living with nature, such as finding water source and practicing Sweden cultivation, which is an extensive sustainable agriculture. However, they have limited education, language barrier, and lack of conceptual skill and access to government service. In terms of social capital, community members support each other. They share their labor for farming and community development works, but the sharing is limited within their ethnic group. They are highly dependent on natural resource. They consume water. Their consumption water are from the upstream forest. They also harvest wild plants and natural fish for consumption. As for infrastructure, they have limited community water pipe, dirt road with seasonal accessibility, no irrigation service. Some target community just receive access to electricity in past few years. Mobile signal is improving, but not available in our area yet. Lastly, the financial resource, they have limited source of income and limit access to financial service. Most of local government in the mountain area are small and have limited budget. the climate impacts. The rice are impacted by the long dry spell during the seedling and budding stage, erratic rainfall during harvesting, flash flood in paddy risk area. Climate change also affects the yield and quality of cash crop. Storm damage the maize and long dry spell reduce the yield of maize and beans. Long dry spell also help vegetable disease to spread easily. The erratic rainfall during harvesting season also impact beans color, which can make it more difficult to sell. Drought not only impact on farming, but also the natural plants, which are food source for cattle. And therefore, if drought happen, it can cause malnutrition in cattle from not having enough food. It also affect community people because they will need to spend more money on food compared to getting it from natural resource. Seastart, a research center in Thailand, they use climate data model to predict the climate projection for the area. The result found that there are small change in the amount of annual rainfall, but reduced number of rainy days and heavier rainfalls. And the heavier rainfall can cause severe soil erosion in this slope agriculture land, which can reduce the soil fertility. It was also shown that there will be less rainfall in July, which is the growing season for the communities crop. And there are more rainfall in October and November, which coincide with the rice harvesting season of the communities. For the temperature, there will be higher average temperature, and higher average temperature also lead to more evaporation, which can also lead to drought. In terms of what we have done, before the project starts, Rock Thai Foundation had been working in the target area on PJS, but for like protecting indigenous people land right with communities. In phase 1, we were able to use the PJS data to plan for community water management. We had target 7 communities, and water problems were identified as a common main issue because all target community, which is why in phase 1, the project focused on community water development and implementation as a learning platform for community adaptive capacity building. For the phase 2, we will expand our target area to include 13 new communities, as well as continue working with the 7 from the previous phase. The project also decided to link the water management initiative from the phase 1 by focusing on climate smart agriculture or super agriculture. Then halfway through implementing the phase 2, we decided to include community adaptation planning as well, because climate smart agriculture is linked to other sectors such as forest and land use. Therefore, it's important for us to ensure that the plans for each of the sectors complement each other. In phase 3, we aim to scale up, expand, and disseminate the project approaches from the previous phase in order to ensure the sustainability after the project ends. To do this, we work at different levels. At community level, we reach out to community members from the previous phase to help facilitate the implementation of the project approach in 10 new communities. We also aim to build the capacity of these community members who help and turn them into local facilitator to ensure that there will be a local facilitator who can facilitate the project approach and the process after the project ends. In terms of agriculture, we also aim to have the project pilot farmer to share their approach with other through open farm activity and other knowledge sharing activities. The project also provides sub-grant for community to implement their community plan initiative. At local government and NGO level, we aim to mainstream the project approach to the local government and NGO by build their capacity on the project approach to training and hand-holding support on implementing of the approach. We also engage the local government to participate in the community planning process so that they will be able to gain better understanding and be more supportive for the implementation of community plan. For the key success, they could be grouped into 5 main points. The first point is that through the numerous planning process that happen during the project, we are able to refine the process step into to make it more suitable for local communities. The adaptive capacity of local community were built, and every community has a community adaptation plan. The community facilitator will also be able to enhance their facilitation skill. NGO were able to develop their skill in facilitating process to the point where they can continue implementing the project approach in their different area. The local government improve their facilitation skill also, but only apply in certain area, which were the PGIS or the participatory mapping and community water management. However, they support the implementation of the community plans by integrating into their local development plan and provide funding for the implementation. The communities and the pilot farmers involved in the project can now become learning places to share their knowledge to others. PGIS can be used to obtain information for many purposes by communities and local governments, such as in decision-making process on water development, in disaster prevention and claim support. These pictures show planning process for project approaches, just to show you the process. And these are pictures of the different super agriculture model. Farmer adaptation to climate change has many levels, ranging from changing agricultural practice such as planting methods, saving more seeds, improve irrigation, changing crops, to changing of farming system, such as switching to organic farming and agroforestry. This is a picture to show the use of PGIS in planning for flood prevention and management in area prone to flooding. For the factor of success, we have learned that the adaptive communities in our project had following quality. First, the equal participation from community members, especially with decision making and involve benefit sharing, The effective working group, because each of the member has different skill and were able to complement each other. Strong linkage with government and other stakeholders enable this community to gain more support. Community had access and analysis skill to understand new and update information. Ability to plan based on holistic view and holistic view of the information and have a long-term vision that fit with their situation. Ability to appropriately integrate non-local and local knowledge and technology and apply it to the local context. Success farmer or adaptive farmer in our project area had following quality: the ability to apply newly learned knowledge and different agriculture options, availability of farmers' resource such as time, labor, and financial resource, farmer innovation, some farmer involved in farmer networks are able to improve their knowledge and resource sharing. Farmer with sufficient forest resource and social support have a higher ability to take risks in using different agricultural options. Ability to reach out to local government, NGO, and other stakeholders to help them obtain support in the area where they need, such as irrigation improvement, market channel, and the last factor, it's also important to be able to identify profitable or high value crop that grow in the mountain area, can easily be transported and can compete in the market. For the factor that lead to success in mainstreaming of the project approaches to local government and NGO level, the first one was joint community and local government leaders' participation and formalized agreement in using the project approaches. What I mean by this is that there were like a public meeting held at the local government office where community representative and local government leader at the meeting agree to working on the project approach together. The next factor is that the leader involved in driving the implementation, both at community and local government level, had strong leadership and commitment. For example, the village that has like a strong leadership and commitment were able to implement the project approach much faster than village that the commitment and the leader were not so active. Next was citizen and stakeholder mobilization and engagement. The different resources contribute by citizen and the stakeholder enable the implementation success. Next was clearly structured working process, which is that everybody involved had a clear understanding of their roles. Lastly, it was very important to have collaborative partnership at all levels, from community to local government, because the project approach require cooperation and understanding among all sides in order to be successful. For the adjustment, there are two levels to what we adjust during the project, which are project level and process level. For the project level in phase 2, we decided to broaden from climate smart agriculture to include community adaptation planning process in order to having the CSA plan that complement with other sector because they're connected. In phase 3, we add gender dialogue and sub-grants to fund separate women activities because we want to build their capacity in being able to express their opinion in formal meeting setting with local government. At the process level, we add the visioning activity into community planning process to ensure that the community members agree on the same goals in order for them to do the strategic plan. We also adjust the community planning process by dividing it into shorter activity to accommodate for the community limit availability. In phase 1 and phase 2, we use PJS map to analyze water source and utilization location. But this information was not enough. We also add the water balance concept in order to help the community see the water availability compared to the water demand for better planning. For GIS, we start applying GIS technology in various other areas since the beginning of the projects, such as for water source mapping, for registering farmland with the Agricultural Extension Office, and for planning on landslide and flood mitigation. The super farming planning process was developed during the project period to meet farmer needs, resource, which were different in each farmers. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Tip. Maybe we'll take a few questions now from participants, so that if they have clarification question or question on content, then we can use like 10 minutes now to answer them. So please, the floor is yours. I don't see hands up, so you can just unmute yourself or write in the question box. No question?
Maybe there are some questions later. Maybe take some time to digest.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's move on to Pradeep presentation. I see one question from Natalie in the chat box. So what is the most important impact for communities when you're talking to them or in the evaluation?
The most impact?
Yeah.
You mean the impact of the climate change?
No, the impact of the project, I think.
The impact of the project. They have like a improve on water availability of water and water system, which impact a lot on their well-being, both the sanitation and also availability of water at the community level. Also allow them to have a kitchen garden, which help them to have food security.
Thanks, Tip. So water, like having water is like the most important. Okay. There is also another question from Bal asking, can you please elaborate a bit on the adjustment that you listed, especially the fact that CSA, Climate Smart Agriculture, could not be a standalone component and needed to be seen as a part of an holistic adaptation process?
When we improve the water system, of course, it can help improve the. Then we try to improve the climate smart agriculture, so to reduce the impact of the climate change to agriculture. But after the products have come out, they have higher productivity, but the price is not going the same way. The price is going down because there are more products. So we found that we need to plan every sector or aspect at the same time. And sometimes in some community, water that used for agriculture can reduce the amount of water for community consumption. So the planning that have every sector so important. That's why we broaden or expand the process to cover every sector of the community.
Thank you, Pip. I don't see any other question in the chat box, no hands up. There will be another Q&A session after Pradeep presentation. So if you think of other questions on Tip's presentation, put them in the chat box and we can address them at the end of the webinar. So Pradeep, the floor is yours. I see you unmuted and you try to share your screen. Is that working?
No. It's not working well.
Okay, I can share the screen for you.
Okay.
Maybe, and then you can tell me when to move slides. Okay, normally you should be able, everybody should be able to see Pradeep presentation. So the floor is yours, Pradeep.
Hello.
We can hear you, Pradeep.
But this picture is showing very small. Slide is very small.
Okay.
We see it well, Pradeep. I think it's an issue on your end because the view for us is good. It's full screen.
But in my part of view, it's very small.
Okay. Can you double click on it? Maybe it will enlarge, or if you see.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, is it working? Sorry, because the connection with India is not very good, so we're trying to hold the webinar. Pradeep, can you see it now?
Actually, yeah, it is showing, but the slides are not moving.
Okay, yeah, because I'm the one sharing the screen. So just tell me when you want me to move.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome everybody for the presentation of Where the Rainfalls Program, India program, which is a community-based climate change adaptation program. And in today's presentation, I will specifically share about women's mobility, voice, and accountability in project interventions. Before going into the detailed presentation, I would like to share the goal, objectives, and project location, which has already been shared by Mary during the initial presentation. The goal is to enhance the resilience of marginalized population from central India to climate risks and climate change by building their adaptive capacities. So the objectives are twofold. The first objective is to support communities to move towards more climate resilient livelihoods. And the second objective is to contribute to the integration of climate risks and climate change in policies and practices of other stakeholders. The project location is in 2 states and 50 villages. 40 villages belongs to Chhattisgarh state of India and 10 villages belongs to Maharashtra, Vidarbha region of Maharashtra. Next slide. So in this slide, I am specifically showing the challenges faced by women in accessing inputs, services, and opportunities in practicing CVA. Since we are working with exclusively with the tribal communities, the women have very limited mobility, and uh, their mobility is restricted to their village only. Women in India own less than 10% land. Lack of land registration in their name deny them access to credit and government schemes. Despite women's large participation in agriculture, there remains wide gap in decision making. So mostly women, they take a very little discussion when comes the agriculture and the livelihood sectors work. And though there is mandatory provision by Government of India for 30% participation in the trainings and workshops, very rarely women participate and attend government-led training programs. Next is most government policies and schemes are gender neutral. Also, awareness of knowledge among government officials on gender and gender integration is very limited. Awareness level among women farmers and agriculture department officials is very low on the program specifically designed by Government of India for the women empowerment program. Next. In this slide, I will be discussing about the key components of CBA under the Where the Rain Falls project. There are mainly 10 key components are addressed in the project implementation. One is formation and strengthening of self-help groups who are extending support for savings and interloaning activities, including linking with formal financial institutions for accessing finance for taking of entrepreneurial activities. Second one is training to Adivasi women, mainly the tribal women, on improved agricultural practices. The third one is set of mini agromet observatories for dissemination of climate information among tribal women. And the fourth one is the village development committees in all project villages. And also joint forest management committees in 20 forest inhabited villages. And these village development committees mostly they work for village development and also develop community action plans based on the local knowledge and local inputs to integrate with government plans. Then develop partnership and linkages with government departments. Fourth one is undertook participatory gender analysis in all the project villages, because all the project participants are women, and there is a focus for women empowerment which is underlying in the project. Then organized gender sensitization training workshops and functional literacy sessions for exclusively for women to build their capacities on different areas. Then organized local seed fairs to promote indigenous varieties of seeds and develop community action plans in all project villages. Establish these farmer field schools to discuss technical knowledge and demonstration on agriculture and to promote super agriculture practices. Next. Mainly, the project followed the three key approaches. The first key approach is to building women capacity through training on agricultural techniques, financial and empowerment, literacy, and leadership. So focus is given to build the capacity of women through different agricultural training programs, sending them to agricultural research centers, weather stations, and building their capacities by doing different interface meetings with bank and government officials and conducting literacy and leadership sessions on regular basis at village level for women. Then second one is empowering women by promoting their active participation in local governance organizations and facilitating their access to inputs, markets, and services. This was also given much emphasis during the project implementation. So much emphasis was given for women's participation in the local governance systems, namely in India, the Gram Panchayat system, which is prevailing at a village level. So women were encouraged to participate in the Gram Panchayat meetings and also discuss their uh, uh, problems and also issues and emerging needs in the village Gram Panchayat meetings, so that it is recorded at a local level and it goes up to the higher level for implementation. Then generating supportive relations with the communities and households, thus facilitating equitable decision making with households, or officially recognizing women as farmers through gender dialogues and other tools and techniques. So emphasis was also given to develop the skills and capacities of women by building their knowledge, and also at different levels, like the agency and structural levels. Much emphasis was given to build the capacities of women so that they open up, they demand their rights, and at household level they also get equal treatment, and at community level they put forth their demands and participate in the decision making processes. Next. Community-based climate change adaptation strategy. We have followed a few strategies at program implementation level. They are mainly preparation of community action plans. Each village has prepared the community action plans based on their local needs and local priorities, with their local knowledge, which is documented, and also which involves mostly the needs of women, like water, sanitation, health, children's education, and also participation in the governance systems, which is documented and discussed among villagers and also at different agency level. Then awareness generation, the project strive to provide information to women farmers and communities at large, with the aim of enabling informed decision making at the village and individual level. The project activities were informed by the community action plans. So whatever the project activities are initiated, these are also well documented and also made available for others references by government officials and other civil society organizations. Then strengthening the self-help groups. The project also put a lot of emphasis for strengthening the women self-help groups for promoting savings and credit activities, and undertaking joint actions for social development and also women's welfare by way of savings and interloaning and fulfilling their mutual requirements. Next. Then the most important area is the local governance system, which is termed as panchayats and gram sabha. The local governance structures play a very crucial role in the community development and prioritizing the needs and aspirations of the local community. So there was a lot of focus for participation of women's mainly in the Gram Sabhas to put forth their views, and they represent in different committees of the Gram Sabha to ensure that their needs are fulfilled. Then we have done a unique activity in the project area called power analysis, where we have administered a tool to understand the local dynamics and the power analysis prevailing in the community. This tool was administered once in 2016 and other time in 2019, where we have seen what are the changes happening at village level, and who are the mainly the powerful people and the influential people who are mainly influencing the decision-making processes at the village level. A more detailed analysis is done in the next slide. So here you can see in this presentation, there is a comparison of the power and influence of different stakeholders. And when we analyzed the power and influence of different stakeholders during 2016, it was found that the moneylender, who is the most powerful person in the village, because he provides money to the needy households and charge very exorbitant rate of interest. And he has a lot of influence over the people, over women and farmers in the villages. And the second one was the landlord, who also influenced the people because he has muscle power and a lot of land. And most people, they work on the landlords, the land for agriculture. So he had a lot of influence over the people. Then third one, the panchayat representative leader, who became the leader of the local governance. Then fourth was the women SHG. Fifth one, joint forest management committee. Sixth was village development committee. Seventh, traditional revenue collector, and traditional leader and farmer. So when we assessed again in 2019, we have found that there is tremendous change in the decision-making process, where the village women, village committees, and village farmers have taken a lot of responsibility doing their activities and became more influential than the moneylender and landlords, which were identified during 2016. So in 2019, we found that the village development committee formed by the project is more powerful because they are acting as key players in the village developmental processes. So they have a lot of influence and power in the village, which is a big change in the village dynamics. And the second, we found that the women farmers have a lot of influence because they have attended farmer field schools, build their knowledge capacities, and also they have built capacities to influence their family members and influence the decision-making processes at community level. So they became very influential and powerful. The third one is the self-help group of women who provides credit at village level in very reasonable rates and to the needy people. They found to be very influential. Fourth one is the farmer field school, then the village sarpanch and the bunch, then the Anganwadi worker, watershed committee, and the village health worker and gram sevaks. So through these exercises, we found that the activities we have undertaken for mostly for the women and for their empowerment has changed the village dynamics a lot, and the village women are becoming more influential and powerful in the decision-making processes at village level. Next. The processes followed in community-based climate change adaptation, mainly we have designed different approaches and processes for this. The key processes is to do community assessment and planning, and there actually women's participation is inevitable, and they participate and analyze their needs and priorities, and then this leads to preparation of community action plans. And there is also a lot of community engagement we have done through development of water harvesting structures, weather information, dissemination of weather information, promotion of this super agriculture, and a lot of other activities for agriculture development, and where also women's participation and voice within the village was ensured, and they have represented to the village development committees, and their voices are also heard in the larger forum, which is village development committee at the village level. Then we have this local area decision making and women's influence in decision making processes, which leads to the village governance system at the Gram Sabha. Then we have community monitoring, women's participation in the monitoring and evaluation, which leads to ultimately the climate change adaptation. And for this, we have done a lot of activities like awareness and technical support, strengthening self-help groups, participatory scenario-based planning, farmer field schools, linkage with input and output providers, then power analysis, then this seed fairs and advocacy at block level. So these are different activities we have undertaken to make this change possible at village level. Next. So here actually these are some of the key findings of the where the rainfall's end line assessment report. And here actually we have seen that there are a lot of changes happened due to the program implementation at village level, where it has come through the end line assessment, which was done by an external evaluator. And from the assessment, we found out that the agricultural productivity has increased from 50 to 60%, because in the baseline, the benchmark was 50%, and during this assessment, we found that there is an increase of 10%, and full availability increased to 74%. Water availability and reliability increased to 58.7%. Access to savings and credit increased to 84%. Women's ability to recover from extreme climate events has increased to 72%, and access to weather forecasts has gone up to 80%. Then all the villages have integrated climate risks and climate changes in their planning processes. 77% of women reporting active participation in the key decision-making processes at the household and community level. Next. Then these are some of the interesting impact of the project. Like all the farmers, they are practicing super agriculture. 75% of farmers reported increased water availability for farming. 33% increased in household income from cash crops. 40% of farmers diversified their livelihoods, and 35% the civil society organizations are demonstrating increased awareness and CBA approaches. Because we have an area of collaborating with civil society organizations in the district for climate information exchanges. We formed a network where about 30 local civil society organizations participated and replicated our approach. And 75% of government staff demonstrating increased awareness, because the main focus was to collaborate with different government programs and leveraging government support. And there was all this community action plans are integrated in the local governance plans, and though it has not gotten up to national level, at sub-district and block level, we have integrated our climate change adaptation plans, and like our PSPs, where government officers participate, like other programs, other livelihood programs. There is a lot of contribution and support for development of water harvesting structures, and for women enterprise development programs, all those things. So we think that the local authorities in 2 blocks where we operate, they have significantly integrated our approaches in their plans. Then last but not the least, I can share that there are 2 major things happened due to the program intervention. That is, one is the water harvesting structures, which we called in local area as 5% model, has a significant impact in the local area. And seeing the benefit of the program, 20 more villages in the adjacent district, they have replicated the same program. And also this climate information network programs and our participatory scenario-based plans are adopted by government authorities in the local area. Though there are a lot of discussions to integrate our 5% model in the local food for work programs. So there is a lot of interest, and a few local departments, they have also integrated these water harvesting activities in the food for work programs meant for the below poverty line people in the area. So this is the overview of the program, which is implemented over a period of 11 years in the districts of Jaspur and recently replicated in the Maharashtra, 10 villages of Maharashtra, which has very good impact in the area. So this is all about the project from my side. So if you have any questions, clarifications, now it is you can ask. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Pradeep. I can already see a question in the chat box for you, especially on the power analysis. And the question is about Moneylender, because they were very powerful a few years back, and now the VDC, the Village Development Committee, is at the top. So Inge is wondering what happened to the moneylenders. And Sushila is also being interested in that, and also she's saying that in CARE we make sure that we are developing inclusive groups with like vulnerable groups, vulnerable people in those groups, but sometimes we include influential people in it. So can you clarify if those moneylenders are, for example, part of those groups, etc.?
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, in our context, the moneylenders are the very rich people who have a lot of money, and their main business is to lend money to the poor people. And it is not, they are not always from the same village. Sometimes they comes from the local area, which is a block headquarters or a panchayat village or from a nearby village. They always does not come from the same village. Though in some cases, some of the money lenders may also fall from the same village. And these money lenders, they give instant money. Suppose you have a health problem, you have a problem for buying seeds, you have problem for sending children to the school. For any purpose, they can give money to you. And when they give money, they take mortgage of gold, ornaments, or utensils, or they keep in writing to take away your land in a bond paper, which is a stamp paper issued by government. So they do all sorts of things, and the rate of interest is very high. So it is more than 100% in a year per annum. So sometimes they charge more than 10%, 10 to 15% per month. So people, though they're scared of the money lenders, but at times of need, they fall prey of money lenders because they have problems. So now what is happening due to the project intervention and a lot of emphasis given for promoting local self-help groups, the self-help groups, they have started savings and credit activities. Every self-help group, they save 50 rupees to 100 rupees per month in their own account. And now what they are doing in case of any need, these self-help groups, they lend money to the needy people in their village with the very minimum interest rate, or sometimes without any interest rate. So they decide to whom they charge interest and to whom they should not charge interest. Like for example, if there is a fire breakout in somebody's house and the house is spoiled with fire, the self-help groups, they decide that, so it is a very pathetic condition, we'll give money to recover from the pathetic situation, will not charge any interest on the loan, but the person has to repay the loan after the next agricultural season. Likewise, if there are some people, they need money for children's education, health, and for agriculture, they lend out money, and they charge minimum interest rate, which is decided by their group members. So this is one aspect where the people, they find out scope for slowly removing the money influence of money lender from their villages. Then due to the capacity building of the village development committees, so they acted as the leaders of their village. So when any conflict arises of the money lender and the village poor person, the village development committee members, they act as conflict resolution members, and they sort out all the conflicts between the money lenders and the village farmers. So in this way, actually, the influence of money lenders has reduced drastically from the project area.
Thank you, Pradeep. There is also another question. I'm not sure if you have seen it in the chat box. I will just read out loud. It's very clear how the project actively engaged and targeted women to take on other responsibilities and increase their influence. But how did the project engage men and ensure that men supported women in becoming more powerful, active in communities and in decision making? And how did the project addresses social norms around women's traditional responsibilities and restricted mobility? So it's a question from Miriam from Care Netherlands.
Yeah, actually, this is a very good question. Actually, we have a very strategically dealt with this situation. When we work with women, we do not exclude any men in any of the programs. So it is an inclusive program where both male and female participate. When we work at agency level, we also ensure that there is equal participation of male and female members at their household, as well as while working at community level, we do not involve male members. Like in all the community level meetings, the male and female members do both engage. Then one more aspect is that actually without the support of male, we feel that without the support of male, it is not possible to empower the female at the household and the village level. So we have also a lot of engagement with male members at the village level. We have also identified male champions who work at household level and support their spouses in different works. We create them as role models and showed to the villagers that you see, due to mutual cooperation and support, how their family is functioning well, and how they have very good mutual understanding, how they both are taking decisions at our household level. So during gender dialogues and other meetings, workshops and trainings, we also create examples and discuss at various levels, taking the male champions case stories. So while working with women members, for women members empowerment, actually, we also give a lot of emphasis to include the male members, give equal importance to them, and also involve the male people who are more supportive to female, and create their case stories and disseminate these stories to into families in the same village and in the other villages, so that there is a positive awareness created in the village, and there is more support and cooperation from the male members for women's mobility and empowerment at village level. And the second part, actually, can you again tell me the second part?
Yeah, the second part is about how you addressed social norms around women's traditional responsibility, but more specifically restricted mobility.
Yeah, actually, this is also very critical to see that not only in the tribal villages, even in the better of villages also, there is a restricted mobility of women due to the threats by the outsiders, then harassment by the people, and also a lot of unforeseen circumstances where female face a lot of problems when they go out. So there is a lot of restrictions at the village and household level to allow the female members to go to the village. So in our program, we designed in such a way that most of the programs takes place at the village level, and there are trainings, exposures, and capacity building programs, which are also takes place outside the village. So the women, they got opportunity to go out and also interact with the government officials as well as entrepreneurs, where we allow their male spouses to go together. Sometimes the female members decide who should be the participants along with them, so that they feel comfortable and go out for attending training programs, discussing with Gram Panchayat leaders as well as government officials. So the women members that themselves take support of their family. They decide that who should be the other male members, accompany them to go out. So the process starts with that. And in a gradual process, when women feel that they are more confident, so they also, few women members form groups and they go together to outside. And in that way, actually, they build more and more confidence among themselves. They feel more freedom, and also they convince their spouses at a household of their activities and what they are doing for their family and villages. Once their male members are convinced, then it is easier for them to go out and take decisions for their family and community.
Thank you, Pradeep. So there are we have 5 minutes left and 2 questions left. So the first one is also for you, Pradeep, and it was part of Sujala questions before. Can you please explain who are the VDC members? Are they male or female? And do you have the ratios for that? And is this the same for committees like Water User Committee, Forest User Committee, etc.? And then there will be, if you can be short, because there will be another question for Deep. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, this is very interesting. We have discussed that we have different types of community-based organizations operating at village level. The first type of community-based organization is the self-help groups. These self-help groups are basically formed by only exclusively by the women members. There are no male members in the self-help groups. These self-help groups, they do savings and credit activities. Apart from that, they also involve in undertaking village issues, and also involve themselves in village developmental activities like cleaning the water bodies, cleaning the village streets, then taking care of village plantation and other activities they do. But their principal activity is mutual support among themselves and undertaking savings and credit activities, and this is exclusively formed by female members. There are no male members on this group. And the second type of group is the Village Development Committee, which is the lead community-based organization at village level. And these VDCs comprises of male and female members both. And for the project, actually, we have developed a protocol and also the standard operating procedure for the village development committees. Each village development committee consists of different categories of people. Like there are, like it is also mentioned in the standard operating procedure that there will be at least two village elders who are elderly people in the village. They will be there. Then maximum youths, village youths will be there, and there is 50% women's participation in the village development committee. And it is so that sometimes the women members who are members of the self-help groups, they are also part of the village development committee. So we ensure that there should be 50-50 participation in of members, like male and female members in the village development committees. Like Water Resources Management Committee, the criteria is also the same. There should be 50% participation of women members in all water resources management committees. Joint forest management committees, actually we have no control on this, though we push more and more women's participation. It is formed by government departments like the forest department. They form this committee, but in the government law also they have to take 30% women's participation. So in all the joint forest management committees, there is 30% women participation, though we are pushing to increase it to 50%. So this is the composition of different committees operating at village level.
Thank you, Pradeep. And I'm sure like after the webinar, we will be able to share with all of you a few project documents, and maybe the SOP, the standard operational procedures for VDC might be might be shared with those who are interested. Conscious of the time, there is one last question for Tip. You mentioned that the solidarity amongst the communities are really within the boundaries of their own ethnic group. And Inge is wondering if through the project this may have changed. So if you can answer quickly, because we will be wrapping up just after.
Okay. Yes, of course. By working with the project, they have more have to work together. In for example, in the PGIS or the participatory land use mapping, the local facilitator from the other community help support other tribe communities to help them on community mapping. And also farmers who would like to do the participatory guarantee standard for like a certification of their like organic farming. They also work together to try to get the certification. So now they more collaboration between different ethnic groups through the project.
Thank you, Tip. So maybe I don't see more questions, and it's time to close. Pradeep, Tip, or Marie, do you want to say a last word before we wrap up?
Yeah, from my side, I can say that this is very interesting to share our experiences in a very larger platform. So this kind of events also gives us opportunity to share what exactly we are doing at field level, at international fora. So this is very good initiative.
Thank you, Pradeep. Tip or Marie?
Yeah, from my side, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present the project in Thailand to CARE Cloud.
Thank you, Tip.
Yeah, and I also want to thank everyone for joining this webinar and for engaging so actively. And feel free to reach out to any of us after the session with any more question or discussion topics. We'll be circulating within the CARE network the project documents such as the final evaluation and the learning document, so you can take a look at those. And we really hope that, I mean, it's always a bit bittersweet to be closing such a successful and long-lasting project. So we hope that we will have opportunities in the near future to continue the work that was undertaken. And we already do actually, but we really want to take this forward and make good use of this lesson.
Yeah. Thank you to the three of you to accept it, to do this presentation in those complicated time. I see a question. We will circulate the slide as well and the recording of the presentation, so you will have that. There is also a few additional documents, such as a presentation of the gender component of the project in India that is available. So we will make a short list of projects for you to access them if you are interested in some component. And I will also share the email addresses of Marie, Tip, and Pradeep to all of you, so that you can reach out if you need more information. And so thank you all for joining. There will be another webinar for this resilience webinar series, I guess before June normally, if everything goes smoothly. And so if you are interested in presenting your project, do not hesitate to reach out so that we can include that in the next webinars. It's really open to everybody who wants to present something on resilience, and especially learnings. It could be failure and how to make things better. So please reach out, and thank you for joining. And have a good day also.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, thank you.